Well, I'm just going to make some summary statements about antinatalism. Derived Energies made another reply to me, and I tried to talk to Gary tonight. God, he lost his mind. And, just to summarize antinatalism, it's, of course, there's a spectrum of different kind of people that believe it. But on the whole, I find it very condescending. It's just like these people think that they're off the hook for the crime, their benefit, that they take it from the crimes of the world because they have these opinions like this. Doesn't get you off the hook, you know. And just very insulting about how you don't even care and stuff. Now, Derived Energy has been very careful to be Mr. Uber polite, but then he still steps in there like he's going to be offended if I'm cussing at some guy that's insulting me and saying I'm full of shit. Literally, that kind of language. Then I reply in kind. He's going to go, oh, well, our position, you shouldn't be so rude and characterize our position. Well, I am going to characterize your position. I think it's a position of people that have privilege and are bored with life. And, the pain hurts so much because they're so sensitive. That's why. And you always want to go other people or I know pain, I had to watch this person die, or other people could be dying in this situation. It's like you're using other people's suffering as your reason to be miserable. And just like they're the only ones that care about the world because they don't even have to look into the details. The way I see it, it's like I'm always looking for people. Human beings are great approximators, and so we always are pretty good at looking at reasons and ways to approximate, to ignore details. But it gets to be a problem because sometimes you want to get a little sophisticated and you don't want to ignore the details so much. So I'm always looking for people ignoring details they don't have to ignore, and excuses that they have. And that's what antinatalism is. It's like we talk about a few super bad examples. So bad we go, oh, we just shouldn't be born. And then suddenly we don't have to solve all those problems. Isn't that lucky? How fortunate. And Gary's the most annoying because he's like, well, I know we won't get people that sterilize and leave, but it makes them conscientious of the issues. It's like, no, it doesn't. You're distracting from real issues. You're talking about how people couldn't exist when you really think they ought to get clean food and water. I mean, a little bit off the real subject in that case. And plus this group, I mean, it's so emotional. Anytime it's all, like I've said before, you end up having to go to the psychoanalysis with any of these conversations you take on long enough. But it's just such an emotional issue that you see on display just some of the most ridiculous things, that you have not answered or addressed. Look, it's just ridiculous to me because when I'm arguing with people, I start to memorize their position, like as a skeptic would, where you could write it down and the other person would go, oh yeah, that's right, good, well put, that's what I would, that's maybe not quite my words, but more or less right. I memorize the other positions. I know Gary's position on this. I know the places where we have roadblocks that keep us from agreeing, and who cares? I don't really, it's not a big goal of mine to make sure we agree in the end. I just like to find out, well, do we really disagree here or there or the other place? Where are the things? And, Gary has the gall to question my integrity as if I haven't answered these things. And it's like, dude, I could answer it again, but if you're not going to notice that it's been answered, just get the gist of it. Here's the answer. You don't like it for X, Y, and Z reason. And I'm not even saying move on. No, just keep going over and over and over it again. I don't care. I'll do that too. But to just have this blind spot because obviously there are emotional reasons behind this particular philosophy. What I find especially annoying about it is that, I'm always bothered more by the faults on my own side. Like if my nation has a bad habit, that to me is a bigger concern, more of an embarrassment than the offense I take at some other, you know, nation tending towards a bad habit. And I think antinatalism is just an example of a very bad habit for liberals. It's hand in hand with the whole population fear thing, and population is a serious concern, and some people are not in a situation where they should have children, but you don't need to generalize that philosophy. Is the point? So with antinatalism, you just have people trying to solve their own emotional problems because they're concerned about the world. So they're like natural liberals, but they're expressing it in this way that's like very elitist. Like the rabble is just, the more of them there are, the more misery, and it's just like, oh, they're just all the steaming cesspool. Gary has the decency to say it and sort of his own angle on it, but I mean that's basically a big part of it. It's just like, oh, the steaming rabble. It's all so disgusting. The wallows that they wallow in, the hollows, and whatever. I mean, I don't give a damn if somebody else thinks that way. I know that it's possible to give meaning to life. It's like, but not real meaning, because you can't prove that it's meaning for someone else, and God didn't make it, and like that's not the meaning we were looking for. Oh well, speak for yourself. I was overjoyed to figure out a relativistic ethics where it's like, we're creating meaning. We create ideas and abstractions. Mathematics, we created that to figure out a language for patterns. I like that we figured that out, that we are still figuring out that we can make new ones and stuff. That's good news for me. It's like somebody in Gary's room is like, well, if you have to make up the meaning yourself, then there might as well be no meaning. Blah blah blah. Might as well end it. Yeah, end it. You're bored with life. End it. Good. We do need the space. So go for it, man. I mean, I find it liberating. I don't want to find out that there's one meaning and I've got to just retrace the steps and do the same thing once again. It's not what it's not what makes me excited about living. And I plan to be excited about living. And that's the other thing. You guys are like, well, there's nothing really going for it. You can't argue for it. Well, I mean, obviously, the speak for yourself angle is something you can think about more, but it's like, I define how you should live based on making the life interesting. You could have anything else happen to you. It's like, oh, well, I had to be poor, nothing I could do about it, because I kept my life interesting. I mean, that's how you organize it. And your guys are like, you don't do that. No. And then you end up like suicidal or neuicidal, or just kind of like, let's just die off. Because you went for safety or something, and, you should have gone for interesting. And me personally, I like safely interesting. And, that works out okay if you're lucky enough to be in a place where you can have a chance at things like that, Yeah. So, derived energy reacted as if I was talking to him half the time when I was talking to Cartoon Karma. Cartoon Karma was great. He took what he gave, and he doesn't seem to be offended by it, and he might be more and more mad or whatever. I don't know. I kind of like him because it's straightforward. If you could talk all blunt to me, if you can take it as well, and somewhat look like you're trying to get the ideas that are in there too, and give ideas in between your own comments. So I'm cool with that, but I do think he has his head up his ass as far as how all this stuff goes. It's just so panicky about it. It's like, we should be talking about the history of the world. Like, what does Athens and the way Athens grand things have to do with how we are. And I mean, we should be talking about these problems, where they came from, how long we've had them, and what some of the known solutions to some of the issues are or might be, some of the theories. No, it's just like, no, let's blame life. Let's blame life. The Nazis are torturing people, let's blame life. And Gary's like, I'm not making life the victim because it is a jiggle. Well, whatever, this is an obvious thing. We're not going for agreement. I mean, people that want to go in like, well, why do people climb mountains and ride skateboards? Because they're assholes. No, some assholes do it, but that's not why. There's plenty of assholes. And being an asshole doesn't motivate that particular behavior. It's just so stupid. And I'm never going to agree with people like that. That's what we live for, is to push things and experience physics and art, light, anything that triggers the senses, which includes all the motor senses in the body. Oh my God, it's just like so put upon, so many comments about this burden of life. Nobody asked me. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Nobody asked you to stay either. It's like these people would die of thirst if nobody offers them a glass of water. I could be standing by the river, or by a spring, or a well, or a fucking bottle of water. It's like, well, nobody asked me. It would have been impolite to drink, and boy, my life is miserable. Not that I'm emphasizing their politeness, but just the sort of, I mean, when your parents decide to make an embryo, that's their tissue at that point. By the time you come along and have your own attitude, you could commit suicide, right? By the time you have an attitude, then, oh no, you're not allowed. Oh no, I wasn't allowed to drink a glass of water. No, you can do it. And the fact that we don't want people don't generally want to. That's the safety net. I mean, other than that, you just can't whine about it. It's like, somebody made me make the decision of if I want to stay in the world, and you're all sad because you're all decided, yeah, I'll stay. It's just so funny because Nietzsche goes on and on about this. It's one of the first things I actually understood when I read him. Enough, I started to get like the gist of where they're, because he goes all over the map, but there's some themes, and this is one major one, is that the people that make the life bad for the living share this characteristic of, they don't really like life. They badmouth it, and they seek to make it as bad as they say. Yeah, well, good luck with that. And then your condescension and everything on top of that, boy, it's a big mess. Somebody needs to do like a thesis for their psych PhD on this phenomena.